Hello and welcome to the second part of this Obvia tutorial. Now, if you've followed us so far, you would know that we already got Obvia as a framework in our computer and it is in our htdocs folders. Now we are going to create an app using the framework and give it the right structure. So for a starter, I have created a folder called Obvia project, which will be connected to Obvia, and this is where all the files of our app will be. And this is also in htdocs to make it easier for us. So, if you go to the website, so obviajs.com/examples, you will see all the files that need to be in our folder, and we will create them one by one in our Visual Studio Code. So, we first need an HTML file called index.html. Let's go here, new file, index.html. Then we need the JavaScript file, which I am going to call obvia.js. As well as the CSS, which will control the styling of our app. Obvia.css. Now, we are going to create a folder which will contain the applets. And within this folder, we also need another folder which is called main. So let's do that as well. New folder, applets, new folder, main. And within main, we need these two files, main.js, which will be the JavaScript file, and main.json, which will be a JSON file. So let's create them both within the folder main, new file, main.json, and new file, main.js. This, we will be working on these later, but first let's focus on index.html and obvia.js. I have already prepared the code in this notepad, and we will be talking about it while we write it down. So this is index.html, and basically, if you have Obvia as a framework already open, you will notice that this HTML file is quite similar to the one that is already in Obvia as a framework. So it basically has the same structure. This has all the examples, while the one that we are going to open, of course, doesn't. But the functionality is pretty much the same. And this is basically a template that you usually use all the time. So you get the style sheet, and you get the style here from obvia.css. Make sure you have this file here and get the style from it. Of course, font awesome. And one thing that's very important here is to connect it to Obvia. So in this script, we are connecting it to the folder Obvia, going to the folder lib, and connecting it with rjs.js. So if we follow this link, we end up here. So htdocs obvia lib rjs.js, and this is basically the folder that you need to get in your index.html. Then this will be initialized, and the base path has to be Obvia. So you go back one folder and you connect with the Obvia framework, and then you define Obvia project /obvia.js, similar to what we have done here. Then there are scripts, the jQuery, and apart from this, the last thing you have to do is to connect the main entry point script, which has to be connected to obvia/aml.js, which is the file here. Normally, as I said, this should be standard, and this is how it generally should be in all index.html files that you are going to create for your Obvia application. The second will be obvia.js, which I have already prepared, and I will paste it really quick. And this is what we have. In the beginning, we start with the data promise function, which should return the data object when resolved, and the data will be loaded only once. So var initDP return promise.resolve. Then the function will decide where the view will go in the graphical user interface. So here you will set the UI route, and you will basically append to the view stack. The applet will be appended to the view stack. Here, for example, return view container add child applet.view. So you have to get the applet. Then there is the application, which is a new app. The URL will be Obvia project /applets/main. So you are basically taking the main applet from the applets folder. Anchor main data promise is initDP. The port is the view stack and the UI route. Components will be the view stack, container type none, components nothing. As it says here, the data should be loaded before calling the render promise so that the current applet, which is the one in the URL implementation, can access it. Basically, these two files are quite standard, and every Obvia app, whenever you initialize it, should have both of them already done. You don't really require to modify this a lot. Maybe mind the URLs all the time, because maybe you will use different names from me. But whenever you want to initialize an Obvia application, this is the structure that it should follow.